بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سمو الشيوخ، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، الضيوف الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. استطاع الإنسان بفضل العقل البشري أن يستثمر موارد الطبيعة وأن يبتكر ويواصل التحدي لضمان الاستمرارية، حيث قام بتوظيف الحقائق التي توصل إليها على شكل تطبيقات واكتشافات مهمة سهلت حياة الناس وقدمت النفع للبشرية. ومن الأمثلة على ذلك ما قام به ضيفانا، حيث أثبت قدرة الإنسان على التحدي واقتحام آفاق متنوعة من خلال تسخير التقنيات الجديدة لخدمة البشرية. نستضيف اليوم في هذا المجلس الكريم جلسة بمناسبة عام على انطلاق مشروع سولار إمبلس، المشروع الذي سلط الضوء على الدور المهم الذي يمكن أن تلعبه التقنيات النظيفة والطاقة المتجددة ضمن مزيج الطاقة العالمي، والذي أثبت أن روح الريادة والابتكار واستخدام التكنولوجيا النظيفة يمكنها مجتمعة أن تغير العالم للأفضل. يشرفني أنا نوال الحسني، المدير التنفيذي للاستدامة في مصدر ومدير جائزة زايد طاقة المستقبل، الجائزة الإماراتية العالمية المعنية بالطاقة المتجددة والاستدامة، أن أتولى مهمة إدارة هذا الحوار مع شخصين حققا إنجازا عالميا غير مسبوق تمثل في التحليق حول العالم بدون استخدام قطرة وقود واحدة، وهما دكتور برنارد بيكارد، الطيار والمختص في الطب النفسي، الرجل الذي قام بأول رحلة بالمنطاد حول العالم بدون توقف، وهو الذي أسس مشروع سولار إمبلس 2 ويشغل منصب رئيس مجلس إدارته، وأندري بورشبرغ، مهندس في علوم الإدارة وهو طيار محترف للطائرات الحربية والهليكوبتر ويشغل منصب الرئيس التنفيذي للمشروع. وسيشاركنا الطيران خلال هذه الجلسة النهج الذي اتبعاه في هذا المشروع وساهم في نجاح مهمتهم التي تمثلت في التحليق بطائرة تعتمد بشكل كامل على الطاقة الشمسية، وهو أمر قال جميع الخبراء أنه مستحيل. واسمحوا لي الآن أن أكمل حديثي باللغة الإنجليزية. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to today's lecture. Our guest speakers set a new world record here in Abu Dhabi last July when their incredible aircraft Solar Impulse 2 completed its historic flight around the Earth powered by the sun only. To celebrate the legacy of Solar Impulse 1 year later and discuss the pathway towards future clean tech innovation, we are delighted to be joined by Dr. Picard and the co-founder, André Broschberg. Before we start our discussion, I would like to share with you a short video.
Achieving the first solar flight around the world. This is the story of two men. Bertrand Piccard, psychiatrist and explorer, and André Broschberg, engineer and entrepreneur. A team driven by a vision of the future and a passion for innovation. And the first airplane of perpetual endurance, able to fly day and night without fuel. Together with their partners, they wanted to show the power of pioneering spirit and clean technologies to bring solutions for a better world. Solar Impulse, the adventure showing that change is possible.
It's a bit the moment of truth, because you simulate, you calculate, you imagine, but there is nothing like testing and doing it in real.
We deeply believe that we can achieve impossible and incredible things with renewable energies, like flying around the world with no fuel. And if this works, of course, everybody can do it on the ground to make a cleaner world. And this can be your way to be with us in the plane.
And this was a scene in Abu Dhabi early this Monday.
Dans ce journal également,
Ultralight plane is powered only by the sun's rays.
launch in July 2015, Bertrand Piccard and André Borschberg flew without a drop of fuel from Abu Dhabi to Oman, across the Arabian Sea to India, Myanmar, China, Japan, and over the Pacific to Hawaii.
How are you feeling after all that time? You broke a world record in terms of solo flight of 2 hours.
Resuming the round-the-world adventure in April 2016, Solar Impulse continued from Hawaii to California and New York, across the Atlantic to Spain, then Egypt, and made it back successfully to Abu Dhabi in July. Today, the challenge is no longer to conquer the moon. The challenge is to conquer quality of life on Earth. Our world desperately needs the implementation of clean technologies to reduce the energy consumption and the waste of natural resources.
Hotel India Bravo, turning final, 02 right.
This airplane was not built to carry passengers, but to carry a message. The world could reduce half of its CO2 emissions by replacing old polluting devices with new clean technologies, like those used on Solar Impulse.
I am inspired by your pioneering spirit.
You know, Mr. Secretary General, if an airplane like Solar Impulse can fly day and night without fuel, the world, of course, can be much cleaner.
Inspiring generations, promoting innovative solutions to the challenges of humanity, inventing a brighter future. Solar energy made it possible to fly many days and nights in a row without fuel, crossing 2 oceans and remaining airborne longer than any jet plane in history. 2016 has seen the completion of this pioneering adventure, flying 40,000 kilometers round the world without a single drop of fuel.
Than an achievement in the history of aviation, Solar Impulse has made an achievement in the history of energy. Let's take it further.
Like Solar Impulse, the clean tech revolution has taken off, presenting new ways of thinking and doing to achieve the impossible. And you can be a part of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Piccard and André Borschberg.
Your Highnesses, Excellencies, dear friends, for a very long time, the protection of the environment has been presented as something that was boring, expensive, threatening the lifestyle, the comfort, the mobility, and the growth of our society. Today, it is possible to have clean solutions, clean technologies, renewable energies that create jobs, that make profit and stimulate growth. But so many people don't know yet about it. And from the beginning, the Solar Impulse project was initiated and created in order to show a new vision of technologies. How can clean technologies and renewable energies achieve goals that were considered to be impossible? How can we inspire people, inspire governments, inspire corporations to be cleaner and more profitable? So I believe that the world of aviation has always been an inspiration. If you look at what happened in the last century, everything changed in the world thanks to aviation, which means that an airplane, in our view, was the best way to demonstrate these technologies, to bring people into the dream, to inspire people to try to go beyond the obvious. And when I spoke about this project, just at the early beginning, to His Highness the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, the response was overwhelming. He told me, I'm your biggest supporter, you have to do it from here. Even before we had an airplane. So of course, when the airplane was ready, it was obvious that we would start from here. And we had the wonderful welcome of Masdar and Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber and all his team. And it was logical to start from here. A lot of people asked us, but Abu Dhabi is an oil-producing country. And I said, yes, but it is also the only oil-producing country that is diversifying its source of energy, that is investing in renewable energies worldwide, investing in clean technologies. So this is the way forward. We will not change everything at once, but we will make it better, diversify, improve, and find new solutions. So when we carried, André and I, we carried the Abu Dhabi and the Masdar logo around the world, it was friendship, but it was also a very clear message about what we can achieve in the future. And we made it. I tell you that when I arrived in the middle of the night of the 26th of July, and I saw the lights of Abu Dhabi on the horizon, and I knew there was still half an hour to go, it was the best part of the flight, the best part of the project. We knew we had succeeded, but it was 15 years of really hard work to get to it. But when we celebrated with a wonderful welcome here in Abu Dhabi, we could say we have made a step forward. But as we will tell you later, there is still a lot to do as the next steps.
Thank you, Bernard. André?
Your Highnesses, Excellencies, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you it's a special emotion to be back here in your country with a lot of fantastic memories. Think about sitting in an airplane and you go from Abu Dhabi to Abu Dhabi, but not for a local flight. Stepping really in the unknown, not knowing if you will be able to make it, not knowing in fact if the airplane is able to fly day and night over the ocean. But interestingly, Abu Dhabi was like a big magnet, difficult to leave. It was difficult to leave to make this airplane ready on time, because we had one day we wanted to leave, which was beginning of March. And difficult to leave emotionally. And we had so many friends here. And when we moved towards east, the tension grew bigger. And when we reached Hawaii, which was more or less halfway, suddenly we had the impression that the pressure was releasing, because we were coming on the other side of the Earth and basically flying back home and hurrying, in fact, to get and to be back in your country. So the flight was not Solar Impulse, fly around the world. It was Solar Impulse from Abu Dhabi to Abu Dhabi. And I think what was great about it, as Bertrand said, that was a good opportunity to explain what you do in your country. I mean, the vision you have at the country level, but also, like very, very specific project like Masdar. And when we could say last year that today is cheaper to produce in this part of the world electricity using solar energy than using fossil energy, I tell you, was a strong message as well. And we reached a point of no return. So fantastic to be back in your wonderful place.
And it's great to have you both back with us. So the question I would like to start with by asking you both, what is the most important lesson that you learned from one another? And what circumstances that lesson have served you well?
what we have learned is that if you want to achieve the impossible, you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it with only what you have learned and only what you believe. Because this is a prison. In our world, we learn far too much to only reproduce what we have learned. So it's like a vicious circle. We know something and we believe that it's the only reality. And we forget all the other ways to think. We forget all the other ways to do. So the best way to get out of this problem is to work with somebody who is completely different. André is a jet fighter pilot. I'm a balloonist. He's an engineer. I'm a psychiatrist. We cannot be more different, which allows us to be much more creative, because we always challenged each other. When I came with my vision of the world, and André came with his own vision of the world, none of us was right. None of us could achieve the impossible. None of us could do what others had never been able to do. But when we allowed ourselves to challenge each other, when André started to change my way of thinking and I changed his way of thinking, we changed the arithmetic of relation. It was not anymore 1 + 1 = 2, it was 1 + 1 = 3. There was his vision of the world, my vision of the world, and a new vision that was both of us. And this is the moment where you can be really creative, because you are interested in what other people think, in what other people do. And at the moment that you understand that you cannot be right alone, that you don't have the truth alone, it opens a new world of creativity, of imagination. And this is, I think, what we really managed to do very, very well. So each time we had a little bit of rivalry, a little bit of competition between the two. We understood that the goal was not to be better than the other one. The goal was to be better than ourselves. So we progressed a lot. I progressed in André's field, he progressed in my field, and now I think we really are better than we were 15 years ago.
It's funny because normally, as I guess you understood, we always disagree. But on this question, I think that's the only questions where we do agree. We agree on these differences. Let me give you one example. When Bertrand is facing a decision on an important question, he will wait until the last minute to make his decision, to bring in everything that he could see, gets as input, to make sure that basically he will incorporate whatever happens until the final moment. I guess that's the best. But if you work with a team, it makes the other people not knowing what you want to do. And they cannot wait. They have to work. So it doesn't make the life easy for a team. On my side, I'm much more strategic. So I will come up with a plan. But of course, the problem with the plan is that sometimes it's difficult to change the plan. It's difficult to accept to change the plan because you discover other things. So think about merging both strategies. So to have a strategy, but to be able each time to adapt it, to make it flexible. And that's what we try to do. And that's where this 1 + 1 equal 3. And to give you an example, because of course what we try to apply to the team. At the beginning, when I was building up the organization to design and build the airplane, I knew that this aircraft was going to be built in carbon fibers, so the lightest material. So I look for the companies, the best company, with the deepest knowledge in this material, but maybe also with a mindset of being very innovative. And the company identified was a company specialized in boat building. Not any kind of boat, because they built the 2 Swiss boats which won the America's Cup in 2003 and 2007. But they had a fantastic spirit and a fantastic mindset, and of course they knew what carbon fiber was all about. When I brought my engineers, aeronautical engineers. They immediately told me, Andre, you're totally crazy. I mean, these guys will never be able to build our airplane. They have no clue about what is aviation about. And their technicians told me afterwards, yeah, engineers are great, but I don't think you'll be able to design this airplane using what we can do. It will never work. Took 2 years, developing small projects to create the links and slowly, in fact, to bring what Bertrand was saying, this attitude of trying to see what is on the other side and how can I improve my solutions, my view of the world. It took more time to develop the organization than it took to develop the technology. So the project was really about mindset, more than technology. In fact, we didn't invent technologies. Solar cells exist, electric motors exist, battery exists. The question was how to bring these together.
So how to integrate and how to have the right attitude and the right mindset. Very, very inspiring. Bernard, so I'm sure you had a lot of challenges throughout this project, but what was the biggest hurdle that you faced throughout this project?
The biggest hurdle comes from everywhere if you want to do something that has never been done before. It's very, very strange, but when you have a project that is very ambitious, you tell about it to a few people and they will tell you, you cannot do it, it's impossible. And you ask, but why is it impossible? And they answer, because nobody has done it before, which is a completely stupid answer. It should be exactly the opposite. It's precisely because nobody has done it before that we have to try. Otherwise, it will always remain impossible. So you have to try to bring in the project people who have a pioneering spirit, people who believe in the impossible, and people who wish to think out of the box. And I'm sorry to say, but there are not so many of these people in the world. Usually, when you present something, people will not come with you. But we managed to find extraordinary people in that team. Well, the first one is André. When André heard about the project, he was immediately fascinated. The Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, Masdar, of course, and the partners who funded the project. But for one yes, I got 99 no. And this is exhausting. It's really exhausting because at the end you don't know if you are right or if you're wrong, if so many people tell you it's impossible. But the most fascinating thing is to realize that the impossible is only in the head of the people. It's not in the reality. When we landed back in Abu Dhabi, having achieved the flight around the world, it proved that it was possible, which means all the people who said it was impossible were just wrong, because they used a paradigm. And this is something we really have to understand. Each time we think of something in the world, it reflects our vision of the world, it reflects a few paradigms. And everything we do comes out of this paradigm. We have to change the paradigm. I just give you an example. My grandfather in Switzerland installed the first telephone in the country. And he brought in his colleagues, it was in the university, and they all said, oh, it's very nice, but it has no future. Why did they say it has no future? Not because they were stupid, but because they had a paradigm. The paradigm was that you have to pull one telephone line between every house and every house in the world, even connecting people who have never met before, who don't know each other, in case they might need to phone in 10 years. So of course, it's impossible. It's billions and billions of lines. You don't even see the sky. But what was the big change of paradigm? It was to introduce the operating center. You had only one line going to an operating center from where the lines were connected. And from this moment, from this change of paradigm, you could have a completely new invention everywhere in the world in a few years. So what was the big hurdle for Solar Impulse in every single moment was to change the paradigm.
Absolutely, and this mindset and this way of thinking is what absolutely we have in common here in the UAE and with Masdar. The other question I've noticed in the video, a lot of media interest. Did you anticipate that there would be such great media interest in the project? And Actually, in your thinking, why? Why was there so much interest in this project?
This project could not succeed without the media interest, because the goal was to make a spectacular adventure that would promote the clean technologies and the renewable energies. So we had to make it spectacular, so the media would be interested, would be attracted, would report about it in the traditional media, in the social media, in schools, in the governments, and this is really what we aimed for. There were a lot of people in the communication to be able to spread the message. The worst would have been to have the public just believing we do it to beat world records. No, all this was at the service of the message. So I think each time you do something spectacular in aviation, you have a good response. This is also why I choose an airplane to do it and not a boat or a car. And if I had made a press conference one day in my office, inviting the media to say, hey guys, you know, there are so many interesting solutions to make a cleaner world, nobody would have come. But when you have a solar-powered airplane that is 72-meter wingspan, that is beautiful, that is incredibly well built, that can do something that never anybody has done before, then you have an impact. And we got a tremendous impact. We had billions and billions and billions of media impressions, and the governments were interested about it, the universities were interested, we had parliamentarians in different parliaments taking Solar Impulse as an example of energy transition, of new clean technologies. So we were overwhelmed by the result.
I totally appreciate that. I understand that with Masdar and Dr. Sultan, and we all know the interest that we had in Masdar when it was started was phenomenal, because, as you mentioned, it is a paradigm shift, and it's a way, and it's doing something in a very, very different way. We have a lot of youth among the audience. I'm one of them. The question is, what type of a spirit that you need to become a pioneer, to become an explorer?
You need 3 main values to become an explorer and a pioneer. You need curiosity, because if you have no curiosity, you try nothing new. You need perseverance, because without perseverance, you will never succeed in the new things that you try. And you need respect, because without respect, your success have no value, have no meaning. And if you have this, then you can move ahead into the unknown, because the real value of exploration is to embrace the unknown. Normally, we're afraid of it. We're afraid of what we don't control, of what we don't understand. So we don't understand that the doubts and the question marks that we face in life are fantastic stimulations for our creativity and our performance. We cannot be very creative only in our comfort zone. But when we get out of our comfort zone and we are a little bit stressed, we're a little afraid, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, it stimulates us to find new solutions outside of what we have learned. Suddenly, we understand that inside of us, we have so many resources, so many skills, so much potential that we have not learned to use. And in these moments of danger and risk, we are obliged to use them. This is the magic of adventure. It's when confidence is more important than courage. When you discover how much you have inside of you that helps you to continue. So it's very nice to explain it like this, but we have to implement it also in education. And education today is something that does not make the children become pioneers. We teach the children to have knowledge, which is good, but it's not enough. We don't understand everything that is outside of knowledge, what we cannot explain, the question marks, all the miraculous phenomenon, all these things that are out of the school program. Imagine we would tell the children, what we explain is only a little part of reality, but everything else exists. Everything else is worth being explored. And your goal as a child should be to explore it. What we cannot understand today, you have to understand. What we cannot explain today, you have to learn how to explain. This is your task for life. If you do that, we will make millions of pioneers. instead of millions of robots.
Absolutely, and they definitely have more resources than what we did have. Andre, you are, you are an experienced pilot. You are a trained pilot, but you heard all the experts saying that this is mission impossible. But you believed in Bernard's vision and you joined him. Why?
I guess this was maybe the strongest motivation. But I guess as well, you have to see what motivates you deep in yourself. And I think passion in some ways plays a very important role. When I was a kid, I was fascinated by, of course, pilots, but I was also fascinated by the stories of all these people. At the time we were reading books, there was not so much televisions or films around, and through the books, really reading about what the pioneers did and how they did it, not knowing if it works, and then also trying their machine, having no flight instructor to explain how it would fly, how you need to pilot it. So really going into completely unknown territory, and for me it was something incredible. And I think it stayed in my heart for all these years. I could become a pilot. I could fly when I was 15, so that was for me an extraordinary adventure. I worked as an entrepreneur in many fields, trying to develop new technologies, new solutions. And 15 years ago, our path crossed each other. Bertrand's path and mine. And when I heard about his idea of flying without any fuel, I mean a different way, using just renewable energy and having an airplane which can fly forever. Imagine that you can stay in the air a week. For me, it was like opening the door in this world of dreams from my childhood. So I think this was the starting point. And when someone tells you, it's impossible, of course, either you say, fine, it's not going to work, or you have maybe this sense of contradiction where you start to be stimulated and you start to believe that this would be interesting to demonstrate this person that he is wrong. And I think it needs a little bit of this as well. And when you have something impossible in front of you, or at least considered impossible, you have two ways to deal with the question. I mean, the first one is to imagine what it will be, in fact, to be there, to have been successful, to realize it, what it brings, and how important this is for you. And I think when you have this image which is very strong, that's the motivation to go forward. If you start to think about the how to go there, basically you will start to think about the hurdles. And as human beings, when we have hurdles, we have fear. And fear will be so overwhelming that this will be the reasons why not to go forward. So for me, the best way is to really strengthen the image that you have of this final outcome and make it so attractive for you that it's overwhelming.
So between this passion and excitement, at what point you were confident that this project will succeed?
I think from day one, if I would not have been confident, I guess I would not have done it. I would not have joined Bertrand. I would not have started. So I think both of us, we were sure that there was a solution. Of course, we didn't know where it would be. So the difficulty was that the technologies which were available in the aviation world was not going to work, because that's what the aviation industry told us. So we had to look in all other directions. It was also clear that we would not succeed in the first go. That of course there will be difficulties, obstacles, and that's when you have to give the best of yourself. From outside you have the impression that this project, they go from one success to the next. We have a first airplane, we do a first mission, we have a second one. That's true that this success helps to motivate the team. But inside, basically, you have to rebound from one problem to the next. It's a succession of problems. And if you get stuck in the problem, that's where it's really difficult. And I give you one example. In one difficult case we had, You may remember that we had the first airplane with which we could demonstrate that we can fly 24 hours. This was 2010. Then we decided to build a second airplane, which is the airplane which came here 2 years ago, with one we used to do the flight around the world. Now this airplane had to have better performance, had to be bigger, had to be lighter. So we had to push the limit even further. And when we were building the wing of this airplane and we were testing the main spar, it's a little bit like the backbone we have here. So really the main part of the body, like the main part of the airplane. So really a big spar of 72 meters, and you apply about 7 tons on it in different ways to make sure that it fits the requirements. When we did the test, and it's a test which lasts 4 weeks, so it's a long one, I tell you the engineers are extremely nervous because you're at the limits. When we were at the end of this test, the spar broke, exploded. So you can imagine the tension and the emotion. And it took almost 1 year to design this part and 1 year to build it. So everyone believes that potentially it was the end. So of course we had to solve the problem. But after a few days, instead of saying, oh, we need 1 more year to build these parts, so we have to postpone the project for 1 more, we lost the year. We started to think, while we have 1 more year available, we gained a year. What can we do with this extra time? And that's when we decided to bring the first airplane to the United States, to cross the country like the pioneers used to do at the time of Charles Lindbergh and on the people who made the aviation we know today. And knowing that if you are not in the United States, you don't exist for this country. You are not on their radar screen. We brought this airplane to San Francisco. We met next to the place where we were. We had Google as one of the largest company. Larry Page, one of the co-founders, became interested, decided to be a partner of our project, and suddenly, in fact, the situation became again more attractive. Suddenly we had someone which would help us to finance this extra year, but we also had someone who would help us to communicate. When we did the longest flights, in the Google homepage where you have this little window where you type what you search for, we had Solar Impulse underneath, and people could go on our website. And for the purpose to convey the message about the importance of these technologies and what you can do with them, of course, you realize how important it was. So suddenly we were in a situation where not only we were solving the technical part of it, so the technical hurdle, technical difficulties, but we had a better situation than before. We also had the training we needed to try to succeed for the flight around the world, so we could transform this difficulty into an opportunity. We could see, in fact, which kind of new situation this problem was creating, and through that, finding a different path, finding a different way, and building up our position for the future.
Thank you so much. So that now you have succeeded in flying a solar plane around the world, which is a historic milestone. What's next for both of you? And just if you have any questions, please just send them, write them down, and the team will collect them from you. Please.
A lot of people believe that Solar Impulse project is finished. No. The first part, the first phase of the Solar Impulse project is accomplished. Now we can finally go on the second phase, which is really to work on the clean technologies. And the Solar Impulse Foundation has launched the goal of bringing, by the end of next year, for COP24, 1,000 profitable solutions to protect the environment. Because solutions that are profitable, that create jobs, that is favorable for growth and for industry, but at the same time that protect the environment. Why that? Because when you hear all the international conferences about climate, about environment, it always starts with a huge list of problems. And before the end of the problems, about sea rise, climate refugees, tropical disease in Europe, droughts, floods, all that. Before the end, everybody is depressed. And everybody believes there is no way out of it. We have to stop that. We have to show that there are solutions that can bring hope, that can bring pioneers together, stimulate the industry, and replace the old polluting systems that we have today that are inefficient by much more efficient technologies. This is an industrial market. And I believe that it's the only way to have growth. Why don't we have so much growth in this world? It's because we don't offer to the consumer something new, something more attractive, something more efficient. So imagine that we replace thermal engines by electric engines, that we have better heating systems, better insulated houses, LED lamps, smart grids, that we have new industrial processes that are more efficient. This is an industrial market. This is a way to stimulate growth again. So the Solar Impulse Foundation has decided to create the World Alliance for Efficient Solutions. And in this World Alliance, we're inviting individuals, startups, corporations, institutions, organizations who have either ideas or projects or products or processes or clean technologies that can be solutions in a profitable way. And what is the Solar Impulse Foundation doing? It's collecting all these members, and we have enough partners to offer the services to the members. We have companies like Solvay, like Covestro, like Nestlé Research, like Air Liquide, like Engie, who are supporting us financially, so we can offer to all the members of the Alliance the expertise for their projects, the promotion of their projects, and the link with potential investors. So imagine that all these solutions that are expertised come in the list of the 1,000 best solutions. We will bring this to the governments who already are desperate to get these solutions because they know this will help them to reach their environmental targets. So often, the targets are just the result of political negotiations, but they have nothing to do with reality. We have to show the solutions first, and depending on the solutions we have, we can put the targets that can be much more ambitious at the same time for the environment and for the industry and for the profitability and the growth and the GDP in the country. So this is what the Solar Impulse Foundation is working on, really pushing this message in order to make it practical, in order to help the governments, in order to help all the startups and the corporations who very often have fantastic ideas, but nobody knows them. Nobody knows them. People who speak about energy, but they have no power. The Solar Impulse Foundation wants to give them the power to be better known.
When we completed the flight around the world last year, I thought I would have difficulty to find something which would bring as much excitement. And I was wrong. Because when I see the technology developing, when I see the potential, there are incredible things which can be done. And let me try to explain in a few words. In the world of aviation, think about Solar Impulse on two dimensions. On one side, it's solar, because we wanted to have an airplane which can fly almost forever. It can fly a week and potentially a month. But you don't need this if you want to go on vacation, if you want to fly 6 hours. You can embark the energy in any ways. It can be clean as well, but you can embark it from the ground, for example. The second dimension is that it's an electric airplane, like you have electric cars. And it's electric because, of course, it's the highest efficiency you can get. And when we started 13 years ago, people were saying, your electric motors are great, but it will stay anecdotal in the world of aviation in the future. No perspective. But today, the perception is completely different. Today, electric propulsion is in the major R&D project of the aviation industry. Think about the little drones that you can buy in the market. You know, these little drones which take pictures with 4 electric motors. These little drones are more stable in turbulence and wind than an expensive helicopter that would cost you about $10 million. Why? Because electric motors are very easy to control and they react immediately. So what can you do with this? You could think about building an airplane which takes off vertically like these drones, small motors, of course larger because the airplane will be a little bit bigger, but then flying like a normal airplane with wings, so extremely efficient. So you could have something which takes you from your home, brings you to your home place, to your workplace, in a quiet way, non-polluting, and of course cheaper because these are easy to implement solutions. That's what you can do with these existing technologies. You know, it's like Solar Impulse. We didn't need to invent new technologies. We had to get the right mindset. And for this, it's the same. So Uber, for example, has already taken this into account in their transportation strategy for the future. A lot of people are working this direction, and Solar Impulse has, of course, the highest experience and the longest experience in electric propulsion. So that's what we want to do. That's what we started. That's in this direction we go. And we hope that you will have the chance to fly this in a few years, because I'm sure it's going to be an incredible experience.
Thank you so much. It's very exciting. We had a few very good questions. You spoke about what makes a person pioneer and an explorer. The question here, how can you introduce, or what do you think will introduce a culture of innovation in an organization? What does it take?
It takes leading by example more than management. In the management, you tell people what to do. In the leadership, you tell people why to do it. And this is what is lacking in so many families, corporations, or countries. But of course, here, I know you understand completely what I say. You had Sheikh Zayed, who was a real leader, and he had a vision, and he explained why he wanted to do it. And everything concurred to make it happen. That's a fantastic example, but it's not like this in so many other countries of the world. So we need the purpose. You know, if you have somebody putting bricks to make a wall of a house, it can seem to be a really difficult and boring work and job. But if you explain that this will become the house of a family where parents and children will be able to live for the next years and fulfill themselves in their life, there is a purpose in making that wall of bricks. And the guy who's making it knows why he's doing it. Each time we can do that in a team, in a country, in a government, in a corporation, we will bring this energy to go further. And this is what we need today.
And I think you have to accept that you can fail. And there's always a difficulty, but the failure is not the end of it. The failure is a difficult moment. But when you fail, you already have tried something that the other one did not try yet, so you already know more than the other person. So it's a way to progress. And of course, you have to keep trying, but accepting the possibility to fail is extremely important, because that's the way for knowledge. That's the way maybe to wisdom as well.
Fantastic. Well, there is a question basically repeated in most of these cards. When are we going to see a commercial airplane flying with solar? Do you see this happening anytime soon? Do you see a plane flying from Abu Dhabi to London using only renewables?
With solar, not very soon, because you would need to have the same type of surface than Solar Impulse flying slowly to create the energy on the plane taken from the sun.
But it could be solar from the ground. Could be solar from the ground.
It can be solar from the ground. It means that you can charge the batteries on the ground with solar energy. And this will happen in 9 years and 5 months. Because since 7 months, I'm saying in 10 years. And it will happen. It will happen for short-haul flights, medium-haul flights with 50 passengers before 10 years' time. And it's so much more efficient. It is silent. It makes no pollution, which means that you can have airports in the middle of cities or very close to cities with no nuisance, no disturbance. So it's another way to show that when it is cleaner, it is more profitable, and you bring a better service to the customer.
Now this is for mid-sized transportation, 50 people, but as I said, I think if you think about these flying cars, I mean, that's something which can take off vertically, 4-6 people, I guess you can expect to see the first one in 5 years from now.
Well, we're going to come back in 5 years. I'm going to ask you, is it reality now? Final question, on both of you. What is your most treasured memory through this journey? If you were going to share one memory in that journey, what that's going to be?
Now, if I have to give only one, it's everything between the takeoff and the landing. No, but there are several, you know, there are different levels. One moment that was fantastic is when I was leaving Hawaii. I had the coast behind me. I had 4,000 miles of water, and the Mission Control Center in Monaco called me and said, Bertrand, now you can go, the Pacific is yours. And you know that you will be in the middle of nowhere for several days. This was fantastic. This is the spirit of exploration. Now, of course, there was another moment when I was talking to Ban Ki-moon live on the sat phone. And this is what you had in the little film. That was the first moment where I understood that my message was heard, that the goal of Solar Impulse was understood. It was the moment on Earth Day where the heads of states were signing the Paris Agreement in New York, and I think Sultan Al-Jaber was there in the room. And I could address the heads of states. And I thought, even if we fail now, at least the message goes. Now, the ultimate best moment is when I arrived over Abu Dhabi. I crushed the finish line where André took off 15 months before, and I still had 1 hour and a half before landing to let the wind calm down. And for 1.5 hours, I knew we had succeeded. Nothing bad could happen. I could completely enjoy it. There was no stress. And I had all the people of the team calling me on the sat phone, and I could thank them. Because it was a teamwork, it was fantastic people supporting us. I could just thank them. And that's probably the most elating 1.5 hours of my life.
Wow, it's fantastic. André?
Well, there was, of course, beautiful moments, but there was also difficult times, emotional times. And one emotional time was what happened during the flight from Japan to Hawaii, which was the first flight over the ocean. And when I left Japan, one of the equipments I needed for the flight did not work. So the engineers immediately told me, André, you have to go back. We fixed the airplane, and you'll take the next window. But we had been waiting 2 months. Think about it, 2 months, day after day, you look at the weather and you say no for tomorrow. Every day, 7 days a week. So the tension was extremely high. And for the first time, when this happened, the weather was improving over the Pacific. And so we discussed with Bertrand and we said, it's not possible to miss this window. But the world of engineers were completely against us. They said, you are crazy. I mean, that's not the way we should do things. And we had two worlds confronting each other. I mean, the world of procedures, the world of safety that we're used to, that is important, of course, to what we do in the way we use technologies, and the world of pioneers who need maybe sometimes, to know where to do the step which is going to bring you to the other side. But the confrontation was hard. It took us 6 months afterwards to rebuild the team, to rebuild this team spirit that Bertrand was talking about.
Thank you so much. This has been extremely inspirational and very rewarding. There's so much of what you shared with us today can be applied to innovation generally, not only in clean technology. It has been fantastic. We are so honored to have you back with us here in your home, Abu Dhabi, and we wish you the best in your future. نشكر ضيفينا على المعلومات القيمة. والشكر موصول لكم حضورنا الكرام على حسن متابعتكم واهتمامكم، ونتمنى أن تكونوا قد قضيتم أمسية ممتعة ومفيدة. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.